Hi students, this is your instructor Megan, and in this video I'd like to talk about the annotated bibliography. One of the big payoffs in this class is that you will create a 10-minute presentation in which you make a thesis statement, basically an argument about something that you think is happening or is going to happen in digital media. And I have another video in which I talk about choosing a topic that you can watch to learn more about what a thesis statement is and how you get there. But the big payoff for this annotated bibliography project is this presentation that you will make. So you'll make a 10-minute video presentation which you provide a thesis statement, an argument, and you provide facts to support your argument. So in order to do that, you need to conduct research, and that's why you are conducting the annotated bibliography project. You have, for your first piece of the project, after you turn in your RQ and thesis statement, you have to turn in 5 entries for your bibliography. And part of the reason you only turn in 5 to start with is so that you can get some feedback from me on how well you're doing on the annotated bibliographies, and also so you can get an idea of what your thesis statement is going to be. So in this video, I'm going to talk about how to put those entries together in some strategies for doing well on them and putting those entries in to your bibliography correctly. Okay, so reminders and tips. How can you excel at your annotated bibliography? Well, there's a few things you need to do. You need to use correct APA citation format, use correct document format, make sure you're citing original sources, use an academic voice, build on prior work and review your prior work throughout the process, and use previous sources to find more sources. So again, the first piece of the bibliography that you turn in is 5 entries, and once you turn those 5 in, I'll give you lots of feedback on whether or not you're doing these things before you move on to doing more research and finding more entries, so you can get an idea of how well you're doing. But I want to put in this video some reminders and tips so that you have an idea where you can improve. Okay, so first you need to use correct APA citation format. I highly suggest using a service or a product like Zotero to help you with APA formatting. Why? Because formatting is not fun and you don't want to spend a lot of your time just working on the formatting. This project, the presentation that you do for the end of the class, is about research and understanding a topic, understanding all the different aspects of that topic, and being able to support an argument. Yes, you have to format your entries in APA, but you don't want to be spending all of your time formatting. So I suggest using a service like Zotero. So if you go to Zotero, the Zotero website, it's just zotero.org. You can download it for Mac or Windows, or if any of you have Linux, good for you, you can get it for that as well. And this will, once you download it, you can install it to your computer. I'm going to open this software on my computer and show you a little bit about how it works. Okay, here it is. This is the Zotero software running on my computer. And what this software will allow you to do is add items piece by piece. So I have 2 projects for which I'm collecting research on this particular service. And so you can create a folder for whatever project you're working on, press the add button, and you can add whatever kind of source you're working with. So let's say we're working with a journal article. To the right, we'll just answer these questions. And you can see here's an example. I'll just run through the examples. You can see that I've just filled in answers to these questions. So anything I know over here, authors, book titles, publishers, dates, I've added in this section to the right. Now what I can do is highlight all of the entries in this section by clicking on the first and then holding Shift while I click on the last. Now if I right-click on these entries, I can click Create Bibliography from Items. And Zotero will ask me what kind of citation I need. And in this case, I need APA, American Psychological Association. So I click on APA. I want a bibliography, and I want to save this to RTF, real text file. I'll hit OK, and let's save it as example. Oops, I hit some kind of hotkey. I'm going to save it to my desktop. It's now on my desktop, and if I open it, I have a text file with all the works I cited in APA citation. And now I don't have to worry about, did I put the period in the right spot? Did I put the date in the right spot? Zotero has taken care of this for me, and I can just copy and paste these into my annotated bibliography. So I highly suggest a service like this so that you're not being bogged down by the citations. Okay, well, what else can you do to excel in this project? Use the correct document format. There's an example on Blackboard that you've been asked to read, and I'm just repeating that example here. The correct document format is for the annotated bibliography to have a title, Annotated Bibliography. Each entry starts on the left, and every additional line is indented one indent. So the reason this format is used is so that as another researcher looking at your bibliography, I can see the name of the source first. So I can just go through the paper and I can see Alderman, and then I can see Falk, and then I can see Williams, or whatever it is. So the first line is lined up to the left. Every additional line of that entry is indented. So you want to make sure you use this correct format. The other thing you want to do is make sure you cite original sources, and there is a reading on original sources that you've been asked to complete earlier in the course, but I'll go over this because I think there's a little bit of confusion sometimes. Original sources are the sources that conducted the research. So you want to make sure you're finding those original sources. If you are reading a blog entry, for example, or a newspaper article that cites research, don't cite that blog or newspaper article. Go find that original resource. And so a good example is your NetSmart text. Your NetSmart text cites a lot of other authors. In one chapter, Reingold discusses Phil Agree's work on Blogger Voice. So if you are doing a presentation on Blogger Voice, and you think that what you've learned about Phil Agree in Reingold's chapter is going to help you, don't just cite Reingold and say, hey, he talks about Phil. Go get Phil Agree's work and cite that as an original source. So here's an example. Let's say I'm interested in what I've learned about this research from Reingold's chapter. I see that it's cited in his chapter. Well, this book has a bibliography at the end. So if I just click on 26, this number that is footnoted for Phil Agree's work, takes me to the bibliography, and there's his work cited right here, and it gives me the URL of this work. So there's no reason why I should be citing Reingold. He didn't do this research. He's just talking about it. So I want to go get that original research. And if I go to that URL, I can see that the research is here. So if you're reading a blog post or a newspaper article that cites research, go get that original research. Don't rely on the blogger or the newspaper reporter to tell you everything about that research. It's likely they've left something out. They could be confused about something. You want to go find that original source. Okay, you want to use academic voice. That means avoid I, me, and my. If you have trouble writing without using I, me, and my, go ahead and write it that way and then rewrite it so that you can avoid those words. Academic voice does not use I, me, or my. It uses sort of a sterile third person voice, and you should see this a lot in the original sources that you're reading. So get used to doing this. In your final presentation, I am not looking for you to just give your opinion on something. I don't want to hear you say, I think Twitter's really great. Prove to me that Twitter's really great for X, Y, and Z. I want to know what your argument is and the evidence that supports it. I don't care what you personally have to say about it unless you have conducted your own original research, which I doubt you have. So avoid I, me, and my, even in your final presentation. I don't want your opinion. I want an argument that you can support scientifically through research. So for example, here's an old version of something that had to be rewritten because it included I, me, or my. So instead of saying in your bibliography, I could use their definition, keep that third person academic voice. Tell me what you're going to use and why without saying that you're using it. Just explain why this is important. So I'll give you a second just to read the old version and the new version and see how I've been able to take I, me, and my out of this. If you included I, me, or my in your annotated bibliography, just go back and rewrite it. And next time you turn in any annotated bibliography work, make sure you avoid it. You want to build on prior work as well. Every time you turn in your work for this project, include your previous work. In week 7, you turn in an outline. I don't just want your outline. I want everything that you've done up until then. So for your first annotated bibliography assignment, I want to know what your research question is and what your thesis statement is. If you just send me a bibliography, how do I know if what you've researched really supports your RQ and statement if I don't see your RQ and statement? So include all your previous work every time you turn something in. That way you're building on your prior work and you have everything handy so you can make sure it all is working together the way you want it to work together. So in week 7, when you turn in that outline, I want your RQ, I want your thesis statement, I want your full annotated bibliography, and I want your outline. And finally, use previous sources to find new sources. So after you do those 5 original citations, use them to help you find more citations. If a paper really helps you and what the paper has to say, or if it's a news article, what it has to say, it really helps you, look at the bibliography or the sources from that piece and see if there's something similar that can help you. So for example, here's the references list for a paper on museums and social media and how museums are using social media. The paper is really helpful, but keep in mind, research papers, journal articles, they are what you are doing now. They rely on a lot of other original resources. So go look at what they looked at and you'll have this whole wealth of information you can glean from other places. So this paper has something like 20 or 30 sources, and I'm just going to go through and I'm going to read the names and I'm going to see if the names can help me understand what they're about, or I can go look through the paper and see when and where these people have been cited and see if that's going to help me. So for example, I see microblogs in higher education, a chance to facilitate informal and process-oriented learning. If my project, my presentation is about microblogging in education, this is a source I want to go seek out because maybe it will help me. Common knowledge of development of joint understanding in the classroom. I'm not as sure that that will help me. It says it's from 1987, and so it might not reference microblogging as much as I would need, but I could at least go check it out. So use previous sources to find new sources. If you have 5 citations for your first part of the bibliography that you think are really worthwhile and helpful, look at their references list and see if you can find more sources that will help you from that list. I hope that helps. If you have any questions about the annotated bibliography, please feel free to send them my way. I would be glad to answer any questions that you have, and I look forward to seeing your progress on these projects.